Okay, hear ye, the meeting of the March 3rd meeting of the Board of Directors of the Water Emergency Transportation Authority is hereby convened, and welcome everyone. And may we have a call of the roll, please?
Chair Wonderman.
Here.
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 Director Alba.
Here.
Director Del Bono. And Director Tinsley.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. And let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have a flag, but I'm looking at yours. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of
America,
the Republic
the
for which
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stay safe.
Hey, welcome to this month's meeting. There'll be another meeting on March 17th, a special meeting of the board as well. This meeting is being conducted in person and also by video conference, and it is being recorded. To reduce background noise, all video conference participants will be joining the meeting in listen-only mode and muted during the discussion. WETA welcomes comments from the public. A public comment period will be set aside after each discussion period and will be accepted in person as well as by video conference. Video conference participants wishing to speak are requested to email your name and item number you'd like to comment on to boardofdirectors@watertransit.org. Board of Directors at watertransit.org. If you are unable to send an email, you will be given an opportunity to speak on the item after those who have signed up. So this is our second hybrid meeting, and look forward to the discussion to take place today. I don't have too much to make in the way of comments. Pretty much follow up on what I spoke of last month, which is a little different this month, which now we're starting to see major movements of employers back to work. And there's an organized effort, especially in San Francisco, to get folks to work. In fact, I believe that Mayor Breed held a press conference with a whole number of businesses who are committing to open offices again. So this should really signal, while we know that almost all of them will, not be 5 days a week. A lot of them will be based on the polling and the work the Bay Area Council's done, reaching out to employers. We're looking at 3 days a week being kind of the modal number of days that we expect employees to return. So that should make a material difference in demand for the commuter type services. That some of those folks may not be typical commuters anymore, and may be more flexible and spread out through the day. But I think it's going to be really important that we're prepared and ready to accept people back onto our ferries in very short order. A lot of companies are announcing that people will be back, within a couple of weeks. So I know we're going to monitor this very, very closely. And I think it's very, very exciting. I say that, looking at the report, I know we'll go through the ridership report, but it does not look too good for WETA over the last few months. Seems like we were way out ahead, but we've been dropping compared to others, or we haven't, while others have been more or less standing still, we've been dropping, especially in Vallejo. It looks like I raised that last month, and it looks like it's pretty profound. So I'm interested to hear, what we know about why we're losing ridership relative to others at this point. It's certainly concerning. One issue I wanted to raise was a question a comment I received from Mayor Tom Butt from Richmond, who received a question from a constituent. So it's about our concessions and whether or not, to what extent are our concessions open on the boats, and is that something that we could be doing? Apparently, in some cases, at least they're not. He was, of course, referring to Richmond, but could we get our, concessions going again as a way to attract people back? So, I'd like to hear maybe. Seamus, when you make your report, you could comment on that. Maybe we could discuss it a little bit. And Finally, I received some good news a few days ago, which was that Governor Newsom reappointed me to be chair of this august body for the next 6 years. So you're stuck with me, but most important for me, I'm excited to be able to continue this work with you. We've got a really great board. We've got a really great leadership and great team with us at WETA. And it's very, very exciting. We've made a lot of progress, and now folks are returning back to real life. And although we're still wearing masks in person in Alameda, I think they're coming off soon. All things being equal, we're going to start looking back at the pandemic as opposed to forward at it. We certainly hope that remains the case. And so, all of the things that we've been talking about doing, expanding the service, doing a better job of targeting it to a broader audience, being able to permanently enhance the sort of equity role that WETA can play, working with maybe more effectively with other agencies, having boats go where boats have never gone before, are all kind of ahead of us now. So it's exciting to kind of continue on in the role. I feel like while we've accomplished a lot, the work is really ahead of us. Obviously, we're with the current ridership and the situation that we're in, it's still very much a recovery, but I think there's a lot of reason to believe that recovery will happen. And once people start getting back, I think they'll probably start coming back in earnest. So look forward to working with all of you. It's been fun, and the fun is just beginning. Let me turn it over to my fellow board members. So Tony and Tintley, please.
Well, just pleasant to be here again, and congratulations, Jim, on your reappointment. That's
Thank you.
really exciting and good news.
Thank you.
That's about it. Thank you.
A number of you sent in notes to Governor Newsom, by the way, urging that. So I wanted, I'll send out some formal thank yous for those, but thank you for your confidence in me, and some of you urged me to actually ask to do it. So I thank you. Director Jeff Del Bono.
I have nothing but congratulations to Ditto.
Thank you very much. Director Monique Moyer.
Good afternoon, and I'll add first and foremost to the congratulations and also my appreciation for you being willing to take this on again for 6 years. I really commend you for the leadership that you've shown to date, the vision and encouragement of all that is possible, all that is happening currently, and to really appreciate that you're leaning in again for another 6 years. So thank you for that, Jim, and kudos to the governor for his wisdom in reappointing you. I just wanted to also call out and recognize the staff and the teams for the various emergency response exercises that have happened and are reported on, I think, in the executive director's report. I'm really delighted to see that. I think now what's happening in the global perspective, it's just underscores again how important it is to be ready for the unknown and for emergencies of all kinds. And so thank you for making that a priority. And that's it from me.
Excellent. Thanks, Director Moyer. Director Jessica Alba.
Yes, I'd just like to add as well, my congratulations to you, Chairwoman. It's fantastic news to have you on board for many years to come. And just giving everyone, right, you can't see this. A shout out to everyone who hasn't had a chance to review the San Francisco Bay Ferry, or the State of San Francisco Bay Ferry 2022, which is available on the website, which has a really fantastic summary of the success through the pandemic recovery program, ridership trends, accomplishments, and also discusses the service vision that we're now embarking on, the planning for that, as well as financial planning. It's a 20-page document, very light reading and engaging reading that I can recommend to everyone on this call today. Thank you. And thank you to staff for putting that together. It's a fantastic summary of our state of affairs.
Thank you very much.
Punctuation.
That sounded like support to me. Okay, let's turn it over to Executive Director Murphy and his team for your report. I know you've got some pretty good news to announce today, so I'm looking for some good news here.
Yeah, we do. Thank you. Thanks for the recognition of what the agency's working on. We do have more progress to report in a number of areas. Last meeting, the Redwood City business plan was before you, and you received that plan. That's made progress at now the Port of Redwood City and the Redwood City Council, who have also received that plan. The next step is to go to the Transportation Authority in San Mateo County, where in April they'll be receiving the plan and also deciding on an allocation of funding to do the environmental work. So we're really keeping that effort going and looking forward to continued progress on that project. On Treasure Island, you may have seen that the service that the developer has procured through Prop SF launched this week. So it is up and running. They have a website where tickets can be procured. We're of course monitoring and coordinating with that operation to look at what ridership looks like initially, how it evolves as that development proceeds. And according to the MOU that we have with the TIMA organization, we will look forward to taking that service over at the right time. And we're preparing for that now. We did announce last month that we received an FTA grant for what would be WETA's second all-electric vessel that would serve Treasure Island and Mission Bay. We're also applying today for a TIRCP application for a third vessel that would be a part of that network and would allow us, once the charging infrastructure is in place, to be able to provide really frequent, relevant service to those growing neighborhoods, which we know there will be a strong market for water transit use when those developments continue. On the grants front, we do have some exciting news from FTA just today. Speaker Pelosi sent out a news announcement just about 30 minutes ago that FTA has awarded $575 million to Bay Area transit agencies to be able to weather the ongoing ridership issues that we're all experiencing. And WETA applied for $26 million to be able to extend our runway and help us navigate the ongoing pandemic. We did receive a $26 million grant from FTA for that purpose, and it's gives us much needed breathing room to be able to navigate the budget challenges, the ridership challenges that we're experiencing. So with that news, I want to turn it over to Aaron McGrath, our CFO, to provide us with an update on the budget and how that is looking for the current fiscal year.
So you give the good news and I get to bring the less fun news. So at our last board meeting, Director Moyer asked that we keep you informed about our fuel costs and the potential mitigations. As we briefed you last month, we're continuing, I'm sure you know this as you probably fill up your tanks, we're continuing to see high fuel prices. Although we don't pay what you pay at the pump, we certainly pay every time prices spike. And utilizing the January data that's in your packet, we still see that problem based on January data at $2 million. But unfortunately, for example, today, the price was much, much higher at, almost $4.50 for us, which is, $1.50 higher than we budgeted for. It's a very unpredictable problem to try to project where we will end up at the end of the year. If it stays, over $4 a gallon, the over budget amount could be, higher than $3 million, $3.5 million. So more significant than we talked about last month. And it certainly doesn't seem like with the world situation that prices are going to come down quickly. There will be some longer term solutions that I'm sure will help in the long run. But internally, what we've been doing is working on our current year budget, trying to identify savings. And at the moment, we can report that we are projecting probably about $750,000 in savings in vessel labor, and that we are also working on a potential savings of $1.5 million in vessel maintenance and $500,000 in facility operations. So this $2.75 million in savings would be used to offset the fuel problem. So we are hoping that we can get to a place where no additional funds would be needed. But we're still working through it. We want to make sure we're not tapping into funds that are needed for anything. You know, none of these funds would keep us, would stop our need to remain in good working order, to do proper maintenance, to do all the things that we need to do. We're just still working through it. And by the time we bring you the budget in May, we should have hopefully worked out a savings plan that will help us get to the end of the year without additional funds. But, you know, it's anybody's guess where fuel prices are going to go. If they continue to get even higher than $4.50 a gallon, it becomes a problem that we'll have to bring back to you, and we may need to request additional funds. You know, and if sufficient savings can't be identified, the funds would come from a different funding mix, because right now we're not allowed to use the federal funds for the fuel because of the way it was procured. So we would be shifting money around to try to solve it in a way that we would be tapping into other funds, whether it's our reserves that we have sitting in our bank account, or whether it's, you know, RM1 money. We have a bunch of funding sources that we could tap for that, but we'll be working on that in the next 2 months. And by May, we should hopefully bring you kind of a more firm number of where we think we're going to end the year and what the solution to that will be. As far as fare revenue, the Chairwoman mentioned the discouraging news about ridership. Omicron is certainly a problem, and the planning, Kevin from planning is going to talk a little bit about ridership, but basically that's translated to continued fare revenue problem. So we were happy to see that in January, ridership was starting to tick up, and if that ticks up, then we are hopeful that we can end the fiscal year on budget as far as fare revenue goes. Is 43% bump in the month of February would mean that even though our current projected fare revenue problem is $2 million, we are hoping that that will shrink to close to zero as businesses open up and people start riding again. We're hopeful, because you remember in the fall, we were above our budgeted number, right? So the hope is that we will normalize, but it's what we need is to get back to July ridership levels. That's what we're hoping to find. And if we can get there, we can close on budget. So there's, you know, the bottom line is that there's a lot of uncertainty still. We just wanted to bring you an update that we're still concerned about these two areas, the revenue and the fuel expense, but we're working really hard to mitigate those problems and figure out ways to solve them. And as we get closer to budget time, we should have a more firm solution to bring to you. You know, and I just also want to point out that everything else is going really well. That, you know, are all of our other, you know, all the things that are within our control are coming in as we expected them to, or better, and things are working well. So I think, you know, there's a lot of reason for optimism despite these, you know, challenging outside factors that are impacting what we do every day. So stop there. See if you have any questions. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Anyone with a question on the finances?
Okay, then I think it probably I do have a short item I wanted to bring up with respect to the state legislative report, but I think it makes sense just after that report on the budget to go right to the ridership report, Kevin. We do have reason to be optimistic about ridership. Aaron mentioned that it is increasing, and I think some of what we're hearing now about companies inviting workers back to the office is, even though it's not 5 days a week, there's some large organizations that are requiring employees to come back, and that's good news for ridership. So we do have reason to be optimistic there. And the report that's in the board packet isn't exactly the most up to date. So Kevin was hopefully going to provide us with a little more up to date forecast on where ridership stands.
Thank you, thank you, Seamus, Chair and members of the board. So the headline on our ridership is going back to the week of January 24th. We've experienced double-digit ridership week over week until last week, where we actually experienced a decline. But in a way, that is actually good news because last week was ski week for most schools in the Bay Area, and the decline sort of indicates that we were experiencing, a lot of people are returning to the office, so much so that we saw during the holiday week a decline in ridership. But going back to our 3-week trend, double-digit ridership in the teens and low 20s for most of the services. Chair Wonderman points out correctly that Vallejo is not as strong, but it's not in the negative either. It's staying steady at about 1 or 2%. And we haven't done any detailed analysis, but I could speculate that our Vallejo ridership strength in the fall was really driven by weekend and midday, what we typically call recreational ridership periods. And that has dropped, during the Omicron and the weather in December and January. I think overall it's not a real decline, but it's more static level. And the real message is the other services are really performing very well in terms of the peak and what of our bread and butter of peak period ridership. So overall, I think it's a good story in terms of ridership. Originally, when we did the budget forecast, we did not foresee Omicron. We assumed that we were going to have a steady ridership increase. So our ridership increases that I'm talking about are really helping us catch up to where we were back in November. But we are seeing really good signs. Genentech reached out to us. They're a primary ridership generator for our South City service. They're coming back to the office in full on March 21st. We had an announcement yesterday from Google. Google's a big ridership generator for us, actually, for their San Francisco office. And so we're seeing it, and even around the corner here at our seaplane terminal, you can see the parking lot is roughly about half full. We're seeing 100 and over 100 per peak period trip right now. So overall, the story is very good in terms of the return. With that, I can take any questions. Thanks.
I would just add to that we are using concessions to the fullest extent that we can as a driver for ridership, trying to make sure that that amenity is available on every run that we can make it available on. The concession area is experiencing difficulty hiring staff to be able to fully staff our concessions system-wide. But we're prioritizing the routes and the runs that have the highest ridership to try and maximize the attraction that we know that is for our service. The other issue that is in line with that is mask requirements. We've seen those getting phased out, obviously, in more places around the Bay Area, around the country, really. When we think about July ridership, if you remember, that was no masks in the office. We saw a spike when masks were not required in the office anymore. But we're hoping that this trend towards a new normal that doesn't include masks will help spike ridership, because it'll be more attractive for people to know that when they get to their final destination, a mask won't be required. March 18th is when the TSA mask mandate for transit expires, and there's a lot of indication that there won't be an extension beyond March 18th. I think it'll depend on what the COVID numbers look like over the next week or two, but hopefully we will get to a place where masks aren't required on transit either. So that is something that we'll keep you up to date on. The state issue that I wanted to report on that isn't included as a bill in your report, but it's worth noting, is SB 917, and it relates to the Blue Ribbon Task Force work and the Transformation Action Plan that came out of that regional effort. SB 917 would implement some of the Transformation Action Plan elements, specifically the fare integration elements that came out of the Fare Integration Task Force that MTC led. And so we are taking a close look at that bill. It does include a little bit of a stick. The agencies would be required to implement the fare integration requirements or else not be eligible for their STA share, their state transit assistance share. So that is the strategy behind that. We've been in discussions with some of the sponsors of this legislation, and we expect that there could be some amendments before the April 12th hearing, where it will be heard for the first time in the Senate. And we'll keep you informed about that, and eventually may bring this to the board for a position. It is an important piece of legislation that has to deal with a very important topic that affects WETA service region-wide. With that, that concludes the executive director's report. Chair Wonderman, happy to respond to any questions or comments.
Sure. Any questions from other board members? Any members of the public have a question? If not, I would ask that, maybe Seamus could get in touch with Mayor Butt, who reached out to me to talk about the concessions and, maybe have a conversation with them about that. I think, he's always very supportive of everything that we're doing, especially in Richmond, and watchful of it as well. And, I think that's it. I don't have any specific questions at this time. So congratulations on the FTA award. That's a really big deal. I know it doesn't solve everything, but it does take a little pressure off, which is good. Give us a little more time to, get things back to normal and know that we can do that. So that's, I wasn't expecting that kind of news. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's move on in the agenda. Item number 6 is the consent calendar. It includes, I won't read off all the items because you have the agenda, but it incorporates 5 separate items, A through E. I would request that we pull item E. I'd like to have a question about that. So could we pull item E off there? And any other members of the board wish to have an item to discuss, any other items?
Make a motion to adopt the consent minus item E, which has been pulled.
Second.
Motion a second. Do we have any member of the public that would like to pull an item? Okay, let's pass. Let's vote on item 6, A through D.
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Del Bono,
Yes.
and Director Insigne.
Yes.
Consent calendar carries.
Okay. Let me call item 6E, authorize release of the request for proposals for construction of the Alameda Main Street Ferry Terminal refurbishment project. So I had just a quick question in the information that you provided. Obviously an important project, and I have no question about getting the RFP out, but it didn't speak to a scoring system for that. And usually I thought it was our practice to explain kind of in advance how we're going to, so that the board knows, what kind of standards you're using to approve a contract. Is this simply a low bid, or is there some other scoring that's involved with these proposals?
Chair Wonderman, I think Chad Mason is on the line here and can speak to that.
Yes, thank you, Chair Wonderman. Chad Mason, Senior Planner. This procurement will use a best value approach, two-step process where candidate bidders are first pre-qualified. The first step is to make sure that they meet all the technical requirements. Anyone who's in the competitive range, those candidates are identified, and then price proposals are opened. So price is also considered as part of the evaluation. So technical approach and qualifications in addition to price proposal.
Thanks. Any other members of the board have any question on item 6E?
Just a quick question about DBE participation. Is there a requirement or recommendation?
This procurement will include our standard DBE goals, and that we believe there is opportunity for some DBE participation on this and some of this specialty work that will be part of it.
Great. Other comments, questions on this, on 6E? Any member of the public want to comment on 6E? Question, comment? Okay, can we get a motion on 6E?
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you call a roll, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Del Bono,
Yes.
Director Intense.
Yes.
6E carries. Thank you.
Okay, I would just ask that, as you know, going forward, you know, especially for the consent calendar, but I think for all items, it's good for the board to know what the scoring system is going to be like, because sometimes in arrears, we put things out and then folks come in and then we get the explanation of how we did it. So it's good to know up front what the procedure is going to look like. Let me call item number 7, award contract to Swiftly Inc. for real-time transit information system as an action item.
And good afternoon, everybody. Mike Gowerty, Principal Planner with WETA. I'm actually going to be presenting this item as well as the next item. And just want to acknowledge in the kind of recurring theme of ridership recovery, the general purpose of this item as well as the next item is really at the end of the day to boost ridership on the WETA system, to get our riders back, whether that be attracting new riders that aren't using our system today or making the our services fundamentally more appealing for the riders that are. So first off is item 7.
Would it make sense for me to call item 8 at the same time so we could talk about them both, or I don't know, is that appropriate? And then we can obviously vote on them separately.
I would take them up separately because they were independent procurement processes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but they do have a recurring theme. I just want to acknowledge that. So the first item, item 7, is a recommended contract award for a real-time transit information system. Just so we're all on the same page, a real-time transit information system is a data feed that provides 3 pieces of information. It provides the location of the vessel. It provides predictions concerning the arrival and departure of a given trip operated by WETA. And then lastly, it has a service alerts component. So it's a mechanism to push out alerts about delays or other service impacts related to the WETA services. It's something that's commonly provided by most bus and rail operators presently, and not as common for a ferry operator to provide. WETA was actually at one point had a real-time system, and we were indeed one of the first organizations throughout the country to implement it back in 2005. That system, has since become obsolete. It's actually out of date, and we don't provide it to our riders, so that we're not able to presently provide the predictions to our riders, but we do provide service alerts through a non-GTFS system. Obviously, over the last 15 years, there's been a lot of technological improvements, and we think there are a lot of opportunities to implement new technology. And to really take advantage of those opportunities, we released an RFP to procure a new real-time system last October. So in response to that RFP, we received 6 proposals. 4 of those proposals were determined to be within the competitive range. The proposals were evaluated by a panel consisting of WETA staff as well as a technical consultant supporting our staff. We conducted interviews, requested additional information from each of the firms, and ultimately scored on a variety of technical factors and how reasonable the proposed costs were consistent with the criteria listed in the RFP. At the conclusion of the evaluation process, the panel identified Swiftly as the highest ranked proposer. Swiftly is a San Francisco company with a lot of local as well as national experience providing real-time transit information services. The product they proposed has a lot of features and a very user-friendly interface for WETA staff as well as our operator staff over at Blue and Gold. And then lastly, the proposal offered by Swiftly had a very competitive cost and wouldn't require any other additional equipment to implement the system. So we saw that as a major upside of the proposal. The pending contract award, which is the action requested today, the schedule for launching the system will take 3 to 4 months, and will provide really a wide range of benefits to WETA once it's available to launch. And just to give a little insight into those benefits, I'm actually going to invite Tom Hall, our manager of public information and marketing, just to walk through a few of the strategies that WETA anticipates for how we'll be able to use the system to, at the end of the day, promote ridership on WETA services.
Great, thank you, Mike. So we're really excited about the real meat of this proposal, which is the GTFS RT feed. That'll allow us to feed our real-time information in a variety of areas, including existing apps that are used by a lot of transit riders, including the Transit app and Google Maps, Google Transit. We'll be able to seamlessly integrate into those apps without having to do any extra work once we have that real-time feed. They'll also feed into our website, and we'll be building some tools to be able to share that information with passengers. In addition to our terminal signage, which is an important area to have real-time predictions, because we do have LCD screens at all of our terminals, and we want to be able to feed the real-time prediction data into that. So that folks are standing at a terminal and there happens to be a delay, or they're not sure when the next boat is supposed to arrive, they'll be able to get that information. We also think this will really streamline our alert system. Right now, you can walk over to dispatch and ask them how easy it is to send out an alert when we do have a delay or cancellation. It's a cumbersome thing to do. It's also cumbersome to update all of those terminal signs whenever we have a schedule change, a holiday schedule or something like that. This is going to make everything a lot easier and really reduce some of the stress and frankly, the cost of implementing those alert systems by just turning it into a data feed that can then be algorithmically updated based on positioning of vessels. We also, we're really targeting at launch to provide a cool feature or two that's not necessarily core to the service, but something that passengers have asked for or been interested in the past. This could be a live map of where all of our ferries are across the bay, which is something that people are interested in, and or a boat lineup page, which we've actually got that request. Director Tinsley may remember a beloved Vallejo ferry that was not beloved by passengers, and some passengers would actually, that boat has since been retired, but some passengers would actually get out of line if they saw that boat coming because they didn't want to ride it all the way to San Francisco for an hour. We don't have any boats like that anymore. All the boats are in great working condition, are very comfortable, but if people want to ride a particular boat, they will be able to see which one's coming and make their decisions based on that. So we're really excited about the improvement to passenger experience that this real-time feed will offer us. Transit riders are getting more sophisticated in the Bay Area more than anywhere else, and this is a service that they expect to be able to get. And so we're going to be able to deliver it pending approval of this award. I'll turn it back to Mike now.
Great, thanks, Tom. So the staff recommendation is to approve a contract award to Swiftly for a contract amount not to exceed $212,659 for an operating term of 60 months. Happy to field any questions you might have about this item.
Great, thank you for the explanation. That's very exciting. Really sounds like it has some great elements. I don't have any questions, so you explained it well. Members of the board, any questions for the team on this one?
I don't have any questions, just a couple of comments. I saw in the staff report that this will also feed into the emergency response situational awareness tools, which are managed by MTC and the California Office of Emergency Services, which I think is fantastic. And you actually answered a few of my other questions in regards to the time of the implementation, and we know that Swiftly has been implemented on a number of systems here in the Bay Area. I'm thinking in regards to seamlessness, this is another one of those integral tools to make it easier for any rider to know when a transit vehicle, whether it's a bus or a ferry or a train, arrives, and how that will match up with the whatever mode you take from your you're going. So I think this is a fantastic addition to the system, and I'm very excited to hear that WETA would be one of the first ferry systems to be using real-time or the GTFS RT feed in the country. So I'm very excited about this. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Director Alba. Other members of the Board of Directors with comments or questions?
I would just equally say, I'm super excited to see this. We're finding that this kind of digital presence is really important for encouraging return to office, as well as just, as you said, it's very sophisticated user base. And so super excited for this. So thank you for leading the way.
Thank you. The way the camera is focused, I can't see Director Delbano. So if you're raising your hand,
This way, which way do I do this? Yeah.
you could lean in.
Yeah,
There you are.
Gotta
Okay.
come
I'm
way
okay.
more
I'm all
this way.
good.
All right. You
Still
saw.
here.
Is there Melanie? Is there anyone from the public signed up on item 7 to speak?
No one has signed up to speak on item 7.
Any member of the public like opportunity to weigh in on item 7 or ask question? Okay, if not, we'll close the public hearing on 7. Let me ask for a motion on
I'll
item
move the
7.
item. Move the item.
We got a motion.
Second,
We got a second. Can we call a roll, please, on item 7?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Del Bono,
yes.
and Director Tinsley.
Yes.
The item passed.
Great, thank you. Let's continue on this subject with item number 8, which is to award contract to Anchor Operating System LLC for an integrated fare ticketing system. I think, Mike, you're probably going to take it away again.
Thanks, Chair Wonderman. Same goal, different system here. And just to be clear, when we talk about integrated fare system, I want to acknowledge that WETA is part of the region that uses the Clipper system, and Clipper, has really been a great product for our users, and approximately 70% of our riders use the Clipper system. But Clipper is not without its limitations, particularly for infrequent transit users that may not have access to a Clipper card, families that may have children or other family members that don't have a Clipper card, and then out-of-town users that maybe aren't familiar with the Clipper system at all. And I know there's some discussion last board meeting about doing everything we can to perhaps appeal to those out-of-town users. I think offering a non-Clipper payment system that provides as much functionality as possible is a definite thing we can do to attract those tourists and out-of-town users. And that's what this system is really about. It's about addressing the limitations that we have in our non-Clipper payment systems. Currently, we rely on 4 systems at the end of the day that are run across 3 different platforms to support our non-Clipper fare payments. This RFP, the goal of this RFP is specifically to enhance and consolidate those systems and ultimately offer a more seamless experience for potential riders that, for whatever reason, aren't inclined to use the Clipper system. So with that goal in mind, we released an RFP last November. This January, we received 5 proposals, 4 of which were within the competitive range. Once again, a WETA evaluation panel, this time consisting of WETA staff as well as a representative from our contract operator, Blue and Gold, read through each of the proposals, requested additional information from each of the proposers based on the responses, and conducted interviews with each of the 4 firms within the competitive range. Same scoring criteria as the real-time system, so a combination of technical factors as well as an assessment of how reasonable the proposed costs were. At the end of that evaluation process, Anchor Operating System, a subsidiary of Hornblower, perhaps the more familiar company to us maritime people, ended up with the highest ranked proposal. Hornblower met and in many cases exceeded the requirements of the RFP for a very competitive cost. In addition to being experienced in the ticketing field, their work through the Hornblower properties in particular lent us the advantage of having a firm that was experienced with ferry operations and the constraints that are present in the course of operating a ferry service. And their system has actually been deployed throughout all of their properties. It's been deployed on the New York City ferry system. And then it was just recently launched yesterday on the Treasure Island ferry system. So Anchor is the same company that is actually doing the ticketing for the new Treasure Island ferry service. So we think this is going to ultimately lead to a much better product for our customers. I just want to highlight a couple of the advantages that we see. The Anchor app, the Anchor is going to be providing the mobile ticketing app for WETA. So this is currently provided by Bytemark and under the Passage branding. So we'll be transitioning away from that product to the new mobile app offered by Anchor. Anchor has a highly customizable app, so we'll be able to set this up in whatever way we want it to look and feel. We'll be able to use this app to integrate the real-time transit feed that we will be building as part of item 7 into the app. So we'll be able to provide the real-time information as well as our schedule information to passengers using the Anchor app to buy their tickets in one place. And we think this can have a real advantage in providing better service to our customers and offering kind of a discovery element for potential customers that aren't yet riding our system. Another huge area of potential improvement with implementing the Anchor system compared to the status quo is with our special event ticketing. And this is significant because over the course of the last year, as we've gone through the process of rebuilding our ridership, special events have been really successful. And so this is a chance to further enhance what we offer in terms of special events through a more robust system that WETA staff will have more control, ability to make changes through, and ultimately provide better information to our passengers. A third component of the system is we'll be upgrading the devices that we offer on board our vessel to purchase tickets. So Anchor will be providing new point of sale devices on board each vessel, and then new handheld devices for our staff that'll not only create some operational efficiencies for WETA, but also streamline the process for our passengers. So they're spending less time purchasing their ticket, more time enjoying the ride on board the ferry. And then lastly, just want to note, beside each of these individual systems offering improvements, there's also improvement in the sense that all of these will be a consolidated system. So it provides staff with a single source of contact for pulling reports, a single source of contact for providing data analysis, and a single source of contact for ultimately providing customer service and messaging. Staff recommendation here is to approve a contract award to Anchor Operating System to implement the system for an amount not to exceed $92,000 for implementation. And then the ongoing expenses would include a 7% ticketing fee on mobile and web sales, as well as a 0.9% credit card processing fee for a term of 60 months. And those fees would apply to the actual expenses based on the actual fare transactions we utilize with the Anchor system. That concludes the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about this item.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That's a great report. It's very exciting improvements we're looking at here. I don't have any questions. It's a complete report. Do I have any comments or questions from members of the board, please?
No questions, just echoing what Chair Winderman just said. This is very exciting, and look forward to hopefully seeing implementation.
Great. Any others? Any members of the public signed up, Melanie, on this item?
No one has signed up to speak.
Anyone have a comment or a question from the public? You can speak up in whatever form you choose to do it. If not, I'll close the public testimony on item number 8. Can we have a motion, please?
So move.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Can you call the roll on item 8, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Del Bono,
Yes.
Director Intensity.
Yes.
Item passes.
Very smooth. Thank you. Thanks. Great great report and progress there. Let's see, item number 9, public comments on non-agendized items. Melanie, has anyone signed up from the public that would like to make a comment on a non-agendized item?
No one has signed up to speak on non-agenda items.
Okay, they're probably saving it up for the 17th, I think. And then anyone would like to speak at this point and address the board of directors? Okay, if not, I'll close the public comments on item number 9. Thanks, everybody. I think we're at a really important point. This is, I think this is a moment for us, and let's work together and let's get the ship sailing again. So, and let's get the fuel prices down. I don't know how to do that, but let's hope they drop. You can't have Aaron not sleeping at night, thinking about rising fuel prices. So thanks, everyone. The meeting's hereby adjourned. Have a good week and weekend, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.